Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I am Fox, and today I wanted to bring you what I think might be the single best solo build that I've ever created. I actually accidentally made this build whilst preparing a legendary solo build. I haven't quite got that done yet, as I still need a couple of extra pieces with some slightly different stat rolls, so don't forget to hit that notification icon to be notified of when that build comes out. I'm hoping to get that all out to you within the next week or so. But what this build essentially does is it incorporates 4 main hallmarks that I think are very important for solo build. And outside of this build, I've never been able to hit all 4 to the high levels that I have been able to here. That is, of course, high weapon damage, high armor regen, and high hazard resistance. This build literally does all 4, and it does all of them very well. Now, a small caveat to this build, some of these pieces are quite difficult to farm for, as you're going to need some stat rolls with hazard protection and critical hit chance or damage. You don't need them to be as high as what you see in front of you here, but what I highly recommend that you do is to hit Legendary Summit and select the respective brand sets that you need. If you select the link at the top of your screen now, you'll see the best 2 builds for clearing any Legendary Summit content or strongholds with clanmates and friends or just random matchmaking. So be sure to try out those builds, get yourself into Legendary Summit, get some really well stat roll pieces. That's where pretty much all of these came from, bar a few, and then you'll have no problem at all putting this build together. What we'll do in the usual fashion is go through the build. I'll then show you the stats of the build, and then we'll load into a solo heroic mission with as many directives turned on as possible so that you can see just how powerful this build is and how well it works. I'm really happy with this. It works so well, and I can't wait to show you all. So let's get started. We are starting with the Survivalist class here. Now you can use other options. Gunner is a fantastic choice, as is Firewall, but I think that Survivalist just offers the right kind of benefits and passives that really complement this build. We gain 10% resistance, damage resistance from elites, or protection from elites should I say, which is really good. We gain 10% skill haste while sat in cover, which is a fantastic way to get your res hive back if you if you actually use it. I can't imagine I will use it in this mission because of how powerful this is, but you know, obviously it's a useful thing to have. We gain a very powerful burn grenade that is great for subduing enemies, and we gain an armor kit that takes our total armor, which is 1.5 million, and regens 100% of that over 5 seconds. That stacks really well with the massive amount of armor regen that we have on this build, and it just means that you can essentially overheal and tank even more damage than you normally would be able to. One of the 2 centerpieces of this build is the Backfire SMG. You don't see this used very much at the moment because whilst it is technically the most powerful weapon in the game, as it offers the single best damage buff that has ever existed in this, you know, in the Division's franchise, it also has a very dangerous side effect as well. And you know, as a result, it can be quite hard to put the pieces together to counter that. A lot of people will just run a booster hive, but we're not going to do that today, as you don't need to. So essentially what this weapon does, the Backfire Exotic SMG, is whenever we deal any kind of damage with this weapon against skills or NPCs, we build up to 200 stacks, each one giving us 1% critical hit damage. That lasts for 10 seconds and it's refreshed the moment we apply a new set of damage. So it is very easy to achieve ridiculous amounts of weapon damage on this build, even though it actually has 4 blues just through this talent. When you reload, you do apply a 10-second bleed to yourself. Now this can become quite dangerous, as the more stacks you have, the more dangerous and powerful the bleed is. However, with this build we are actually completely bleed immune and 80% resistant to all other hazards, which is fantastic. If we get burnt, if we get foamed, those things can very easily kill you. If we get disrupted and lose our shield, you know, these last for all of half a second, and then you've got all of your, you know, that's essentially gone. So we don't need to worry about the second part. We can just purely focus on the benefit of the payment in kind talent. If you don't have the Backfire SMG, it did come out in season, I think it was season 2, I can't even remember now, but it is actually in the world loot pool. So just hit up LZ or DZ or Summit farming with SMG targeted loot, and you should hopefully get one of these. The secondary and sidearm are not that important at all. I literally never use this. The Orbit is actually a great weapon to flesh out some crit chance and crit damage on this build if you are, you know, your stat rolls are a little bit low. I don't personally use this because I don't need to on this build, but it, you know, again, this is a Dark Zone exclusive, so not the easiest weapon to farm for, but this does give you a nice way to flesh out that crit chance and crit damage. If you have an enemy that's low, you can just swap to this, quickly kill them, swap back to your Backfire, which yes will lose all stacks, but then you're going to have a large amount of crit chance and damage to start with anyway. You need 2 pieces of Seskar on this build. Now, as I said before, this ideally if you get a piece like this, which, you know, when you farm Legendary Summit, it's not too difficult. that would be fantastic, but it's not the end of the world. What you need to focus on is hazard protection. So for example, if one of your Seska pieces has, I don't know, 10% weapon damage and 4% crit chance, that's absolutely fine. That works perfectly. And you know, my original version of this build did have some low roll pieces before I pulled some of these over from my PvP character. The most important part is just to roll that 10% Has Pro. Just make sure that your core attribute is, of course, weapon damage being Seska, and the minor attribute is ideally crit chance, or if you hit that crit chance cap, it can be crit damage. It's very important to hit the 60% crit chance cap with this build. You don't want to be even 1% lower than that, as you want to be maximising the backfire's talent. So if you end up with all of your pieces being crit chance, which might be something like 70%, that's obviously too much. Don't worry about it. You're going to get 200% crit damage from your weapon, so it really isn't a problem if you end up in that situation. My second piece of Seska is actually my chest piece. Now, it doesn't have to be the chest piece, but what you do want to have on your chest piece is, again, what we've just gone through. Weapon damage, crit chance ideally, or crit damage if you hit the cap, and then 10% Has Pro. I was lucky enough that this piece already actually came with a Has Pro, so what I've done is rolled Obliterate. Now, in my opinion, and from all the different damage, all the different tests that I've done with this build, Obliterate is actually best in slot. As you're constantly firing with this build and you have the most ridiculous amount of survivability, you can easily keep this ramped up. And this is an additional 25% total weapon damage, which really helps up for the fact that we have 4 blues on the build. But there are some great alternatives as well. You could run Efficient or Unbreakable. They work really well for survivability as well. So, you know, don't worry too much if you can't get Obliterate. Just aim for your chest to have crit chance, Has Pro, and, you know, either weapon damage or armor, depending on the piece that it is. We do have one piece Bellstone Armory here for 1% armor regen. Once again, this is rolled to crit chance and Has Pro. So again, just roll the chance or damage if you've already got the Has Pro on there. But if not, it's still important to get the 10% hazard protection on there. I have one piece of Jarl. This is a Dark Zone exclusive. However, these do drop all the time from Dark Zone proficiency caches, so just hit up those landmarks or play some Conflict and you'll have a good chance of getting one of these from there. As you can see in this, I simply rolled hazard protection onto it. I was lucky enough to get crit chance rolled onto there, but once again, it's not a problem if the crit chance is a bit lower than mine. Now, this spot here is going to be quite difficult to farm for. Luckily, there is a great alternative, being a second piece of Bellstone. I was lucky enough to get the Emperor's Guard named Murakami knees from the Dark Zone with max Has Pro rolled onto them. If you don't have these for the 1% armor regen, yes, they are best in slot. You want to roll a second piece of Bellstone Armory, exactly the same as I have here, as that will give you 10% armor on kill, which in my opinion is as good as the Murakami knees. So these are not a necessity. I personally prefer the higher armor regen over the you know, the 10% armor on kill, but you know, this is Murakami. It gives us 20% skill duration, which doesn't buff this build in any way, so don't worry if you don't have these to the level that I do. If you have a pair with crit chance or crit damage, use those instead. You'll just need to use one additional bleed resistance mod, as you will need to roll this to blue as your core attribute. And then finally we have the other centerpiece of this build, which is Memento. I'm sure you all know my love for Memento. It is quite simply the single best exotic in the game, as it offers such a ridiculous amount of buffs that it is almost impossible not to use this on any good solo build. We gain weapon damage, armor and skill tier, which is amazing, as the additional armor makes us the 4 blue in total, but the additional red gives us 3 red. That combined with the 200% damage, critical hit damage from backfire and obliterate just means that this build feels like a Hunter's Fury build with a ton of red, even though actually we sat on 4 blue. And the +1 skill tier actually helps to make our shield tier 5, as we have 4 blue and 1 yellow. The temporary buffs and the long-term buffs all benefit the build. So the long-term buffs are the best, as they're going to give us 3% armor regen. That means that this build ends up at nearly 74,000 armor per second for your regen, which is ridiculous for a 4 blue build. It's you know, incredibly high. But what it also does is gives us 30% skill efficiency. Now that's actually quite potent for this build, as skill efficiency is at a 1-for-1 ratio, the same for any skill-based stat. The two most important here are actually skill health, which is, you know, the least used or least benefited part of this, and skill haste. The reason for that is that our shield is currently showing, as you can see there, we'll just say 4 million HP. You're going to get this to about 5.4 million HP when you have your backpack trophies up to 30. So it directly buffs our shield, which means that we can stay alive for even longer. And it also gives us a large amount of skill haste, which means that we get our res high back faster if we're able, if we do need to use this. On top of all of that, it gives us 30% additional weapon damage. So again, that helps to flesh out the fact that we only have 3 reds on this build. And then the temporary bonuses are fantastic, because there are 4 blues on this build, we actually gain 40% bonus armor for 10 seconds for each trophy that we pick up, which again is fantastic for negating any kind of damage. And we gain a bit of extra skill efficiency, and we gain 15% additional weapon damage on top of the 30% we're already getting. So you can already see why Memento is, in my opinion, a must for this build. So with all of the stats that I have on here, just bear in mind I have one bleed resistance mod for 9.4, a second one for 9.4, and then because I didn't need the third, I have a critical hit damage mod on my mask. There's a good chance if you don't have Hasbro on all pieces that you'll need to run a third bleed resistance mod. Now it isn't a necessity to be over the 92% threshold for becoming immune. You can see I'm at 98.8, but it certainly helps. My total Hasbro is 80%, which means that if any of these like burn, disorient, disrupt, ensnare, any of these things that can usually kill you or take away your shield and your res hive, they're going to last for barely half a second. If you end up with your Hasbro being something like 60% and you get a couple of bleed resistant mods on there to get up to 80, you know, that's not a problem. Yes, you will receive a small bleed, which can be dangerous at 200%, but because when running over your trophies you're going to gain 40% of your 1.5 million armor as bonus armor, it actually negates that. So try and get your Hasbro as high as mine if you can, and then just use bleed mods, even if you have to use it on all 3 pieces to essentially flesh out that resistance. And you want to be aiming for 92%, as that is the threshold for complete bleed immunity. What we also have is 94.7k weapon damage, which is obviously incredibly high. 60% chance, which is by far the most important, and then I've been able to get my crit damage up to 74%. But if you hit your crit chance at 60 and you end up with, I don't know, 50% crit damage, it's fine. You're going to end up at 250% crit damage with this weapon. So, you know, don't worry if you can't get your stats as high as mine. Just focus on your Hasbro and your crit chance. And if your crit damage is really low, it really doesn't make a difference at all with this build. You can see we've already got very high weapon stats. And of course that 1.5 million armor, you know, with all of that armor regen is really going to help us out. Our armor regen is currently showing at 29.4k. That's because we have the one piece named Murakami and the one piece Bellstone, and then with the additional 3% we actually hit 74 to 75k, which is obviously ridiculous. Again, if you can't get it that high because you don't use the Murakami, the 10% armor on kill from the second Bellstone is a fantastic supplement. So that's the build just there. You definitely want to be using the Crusader shield and the res hive, as these are just fantastic for any solo build. Your shield is obviously going to be very tanky, and it's going to only become more tanky as we gain more backpack trophies, and then the res hive is just there to keep us going. What we're now going to do is load into a solo heroic mission. I'm going to turn on as many directives as possible just to show you how powerful this build is. And then, yeah, please do let me know in the comments what you think to this and if you run your own version of this build. I'm really curious to hear if there are any powerful solo builds out there. Okay, so we've come to Lincoln Memorial. What I've done here, as you can see, is set the directives on. Everything but ammo hoarders. I mean, to be fair, you probably wouldn't run out of ammo with this on anyway, as there are so many crates here, but just to be safe, I have decided to just run with the other 4. So Fog of War for no radar, Hard to Wear, we're not going to get any armor kits, Rages just to spread health around, just to show that we can still kill them, and then Scavenge skills. So if we do use a skill, then we'll need to pick up some skill parts to essentially you know, reset the cooldown there. I'm going to set it to heroic. Let's see how we get on. Now, of course, to start with, you're not going to have a huge amount of armor regen, so like any Memento based build, you've usually got to be a little bit more passive at the start, but we can still build up a very large amount of stacks on our weapon and obliterate. If you look at the side of the gun, you see it's at 0. Every time you shoot into an enemy, you build that up, and as long as you shoot something new every 10 seconds, it will refresh and continue that count going up to the 200 total. See large amounts of bonus armor here as well. Not a difficulty at all. So like I say, this honestly, it feels like I'm running a high red Hunter's Fury build half the time, even though I have 4 blues on this build. And of course, bear in mind that a lot of this isn't rolled, you know, to like max crit chance and crit damage. Yes, I've got one or the other on there, but you know, those stats are lower than a more sort of typical crit chance, crit damage SMG build. But we're still able to just cut through these with absolute ease. Well, I'll see you later, buddy. Thanks for showing up. Oh, get one clip, bro.
Hostiles in the memorial compound. They're moving south.
Cheeky pop on that barrel. Ooh, you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, good sir. Of course, picking up this temporary buff's going to give us a nice bit of weapon damage, a nice bit of bonus armor. Nice work on that grenade throw. There's just no difficulty here at all. Easy mode enabled. You can scream as much as you want, buddy. You're still going down. I'm going to use my shield. Oh, it's insane weapon damage. We're currently at 146 stacks. 150. 160. Oh, yeah, the damage is insane. And this is why I like Obliterate with this, because it builds up at the same time as your critical hit damage, so it's almost like a double buff. You know, you're gaining weapon damage, which your crit damage is based upon, and then of course the crit damage is increasing at the same time. And as we're at that 60% cap, and this is an 850 RPM weapon, yeah, it's very noticeable very quickly. Where are you going? Shield's taken some pretty hefty damage there. Oh, nice grenade throw again. Run through this. The fire's not going to do anything to us because we're nearly immune. Look at that, it's already disappeared. Oh no! I think I got shot in the back there. There you go. So I guess you can go down sometimes. There you go. So it's not a completely perfect build. Oh, look, we can even just destroy him from this range. This is the problem with not having a radar turned on. I just don't know where anybody is. Where are you going? Right, coming up to the boss soon, hopefully. Oh, there he is. See if we can get his backpack, his ammo crate. I mean, the best part as well is we can just build up tons of stacks on this guy as well. Oh, look at that, get wrecked! Now, obviously we have scavenge skills on here, but if we didn't, we would have a lot of skill haste from our backpack anyway, so you'd still get your res side back pretty quickly. Oh, is this the guy that shot me earlier?
All clear. I repeat, compound is all
See you
clear.
later. Now don't forget, if you ever are a little bit low, you are being pushed, you don't want to sort of peek your head out because your armor regen isn't as high as you need it to be at this stage, and that is the whole point of survivalist in the armor kit. I should have used that in the previous room really. I'm not going to edit that out because I do want to show you all where the build can fail, and admittedly me putting on you know, no radar didn't help with my awareness there. But it's not a perfect build, don't get me wrong, but the armor kit absolutely helps out. If you're just taking a little bit of extra damage, just go into cover, pop the armor kit, and then yeah, it's basically like a firewall heal when it's you know, in conjunction with all of your armor regen as well, and you can afford to be a lot more aggressive and clear up the enemies that were bullying you. Get wrecked. Oh wow. Okay, so we are now at full backpack trophies, which is great, as our shield health is going to be higher, our regen is going to be higher, our weapon damage is going to be higher. Oh, that foam just didn't last at all, did it? And that's pretty much guaranteed to kill you if you don't have Hazard Pro. If somebody foams you in place like that, no matter how high your armor is, you know, it's a high chance you're going to go down. Again, just popping shots to keep those stacks going. I'm at 80 at the moment, 90. This is where the damage really starts to ramp up. I think not. So I'm not even using my shield here. I probably should be, but I'm not going to. And of course I can reload to my heart's content because I've got those bleed resistance mods on as well. Helps if I actually land my shots. Let's build some more up off of this. 193. Oh my god, look at the damage numbers. 675k per crit on a weapon that fires 850 bullets per minute. It's insane.
That should keep them from being able to
This section
transport
here,
those
let's just be a bit
borders
cheeky and get a
loaded
fire
with
grenade off. Oh, sorry my dudes, that's what you get for being an enemy of the division. Okay, you see that fire lasted all of about half a second. Or even from that range. Oh, it just melts. It's so powerful. I still can't get over just how strong this weapon is. You really, honestly, you know, if you want to run it with a bunch of reds and a booster hive, be my guest, but you don't need to. Like, you actually don't need to. I knew there was somebody here. Nice try with that cheeky slap. Not today, brother. Yeah, that accuracy. So just coming up to the final boss encounter, you can see that my shield is now 5.4 million HP, whereas before it was barely over 4, so there's a big increase there. The skill haste on my res hive has gone down as well. I did have to use that because apparently I can't use my own build. And if you go to my stats, you'll see that my armor regen is now 73k, which is obviously a lot higher than it was before. And the weapon damage has also gone up to 121k. So for those of you that ever doubt Memento, please don't. It's insane. It's so good. Right, let's continue on with the mass genocide of the True Sons. Oh, nice foam, dude. That lasted long, didn't it? Pay for effort. Woohoo! Where are you going, good sir? Nowhere far, that's for sure. Up to 130 stacks already. This is going to be great. You can just do nothing against me. Oh, see you later, buddy. See you later. Thanks for showing up. There it is. So, that's the build. Like, it's ridiculously good fun. You can just survive everything, but you still do the most ridiculous amounts of damage. Honestly, if you haven't tried this out, please try and put this together and let me know your thoughts in the comments. I absolutely love how this build plays. I'm 100% going to be using this for pretty much all of my solo content going forward, and in the very near future I'm going to have a legendary variant as well, which I've already tested and I was able to get through about 3 or 4 rooms, but I need to make some tweaks. Yeah, just, you know, let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I also want to hear how you guys are running your solo builds if you've got anything similar to this. Thanks again for watching. Thank you for the continued support of the channel, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace.